we going, guys? Mick here from Not Cartel, here to do the grain and glass. So not a beer review this time, but eventually will be. So I'm doing the Saison de Blood. It is the blood orange infused Saison. The blood orange is coming from Vacy in Lower Hunter Valley, New South Wales town of Vacy. I'll just get the app up. So Saison de Blood. On the custom robo brew today, as always. We're going with mash efficiency of 80, a 60-minute boil, hoping to get around about 19 litres into the fermenter. A little bit over would be good. We can then get some into bottles and share it around. If not, enough to get into my keg, being 18 litres. And we're going with 2 litres of loss, boil off. So here we have 15 grams of blood orange zest, freshly zested this morning. The litre of freshly squeezed blood oranges. Check out that colour. That colour's absolutely amazing. Might actually be under a litre. Here we're looking around about 800 mils, sorry, for that one. Using the low mold Saison style ale yeast. We got 2 packets of that there. Because we're not doing a starter, we are hydrating. It's not the highest percentage, but coming in around about 5.3%. Original gravity of 1049 and final gravity around about a 1009. We still might use both packets yet. Coriander seeds. Got to have the coriander seeds in there. That's what the recipe is called for. So we're doing pretty much a copy of the Brewdog. So for those who haven't gone out and jumped on the free Brewdog recipe catalogue, it's a magnitude of recipes that they've put out. Some I think are untested. A lot are certainly commercially released beers that Brewdog have done. So we changed around a few things there to get it up to the 5.3, and obviously a little bit of a grain change. I've stuck with majority of the grain that these guys are used in one of their beers. I think the recipe was based on the Berliner Weiss of coriander and something else. I can't quite remember what it was. But so 2 kilos of Marisoda, which is 52.6% of the grain bill, 1 kilo of Pilsner, which brings in 26.3% of the grain bill, 250 grams of wheat brings in 6.6%, 250 grams of rye brings another 6.63%, and 300 grams of dextrose corn sugar. 8 EBCs, 23.4 IBUs that are bring into the beer using Halawatu Blanc, 15 grams, 43% of the hop bill or hop schedule there, at 60 minutes. So that brings in 21.9 IBUs, and then a hop stand addition of Willamette, New Zealand Willamette, 20 grams, 10 minutes at 80 degrees for the hop stand, brings in a further 1.4 IBUs. We spoke about the yeast. So we're using the coriander, 5 grams of coriander, 10 minutes left in the boil, 30 grams, sorry, I've changed that down, 15 grams of blood orange peel or zest, going in the last 10 minutes or so, and I've got 700 ml here, but we've got around about 800 ml of blood orange juice going in at 10 minutes as well. Mash water is 22.73, just shy of the 23 litres, which is around about 6 gallons for the American terms there. We're sparging with just over, had over 3 litres of sparge water at 3.05, brings us to a total of 25.8 volume of water going into this. Doing a step mash on this one, 60 degrees for 30 minutes, 65 for 20 minutes, 72 for 15 minutes, and then 78 for 10 minutes. Now that's basically what they're doing with their Berliner Weiss recipe on Brewdog, so I've stuck with that. It's a 4-step mash. You don't have to do that. Apparently my research tells me it does quite well without the step mash. And then the fermentation is also pretty much the same. It's a step as well. Oh, 3 steps to that fermentation. So 20 degrees for 4 days, 25 degrees for 3 days, and 28 degrees for 4 days. No dry hop going into this one. We want to keep it nice and simple. We want the yeast to shine through, along with the blood oranges and a little bit of spice, and a little bit of citrus coming off the Halluato Blanc. Now, Halluato Blanc gives you quite similar flavours to white grapes, tannins and stuff like that. So hopefully that sort of just brings across a bit more of that sort of vibe with the beer, using that sort of hop. I think it'll complement the blood orange quite well, along with the Willamette. I think it is quite experimental. We'll see how it goes. Normally I would do a scale down, which I've done, but things got changed when we scaled up the recipe, so we're not going to get the same sort of beer or the same flavours in this particular full batch as what we got in the small batch. So we'll go ahead and we'll start mashing in. So just quickly, guys, we have done the 30 minutes at 60. We've just bumped it up to 65 degrees for the next 20 minutes. Once it gets to 65 degrees, then we'll start the next step from there. Right, guys, so we're into the final step of the mash. So 78 degrees for the next 10 minutes. Just put the recirculator on. I'm still playing around with the recirculator, the pump. Need to get it. What I feel is probably the best thing would be a voltage controller. Try and slow it down a bit. Played around. I had a full circle halo. I've cut down basically in half, so it's got a T section in it. Cut in half, and then I've shortened a section going back into the basket, and a longer section going back down into the boiler. So essentially what's happening there is it's circulating at a pace where it's allowing it to go back down through the grain bed, back out through the boiler, into the pump, and back up again. Adjusting. What it was doing before was it was too powerful. It was too fast. It was drawing all the liquid from the boiler, and then back down. I had it going back down through the basket with the grain, but was not going through the screen fast enough to keep feeding it back into the outlet to get back into the pump. So obviously what we're ending up there with was what we don't want, and that's a dry pump. Otherwise we burn it out. So I've gotten on top of that. I think the way it's running now, you really only need to, you don't have to run it for the whole brew. You only need to run it for, particularly with these step mashes, for a little bit of time to get those sugars obviously traveling back through the wort, and drawing it out and mixing it a lot better. before I done that, I was struggling to get to a 1035, so gave it a little bit of a stir and started to pump back up and run it again now. So we're back up over the, we're heading towards the 1055, 1056. I think that's where we needed to be. So that's working a lot better. Just keeping an eye on it, just to make sure that it doesn't fill up quicker than what it should. But it's been running fine, which is good. At 1049 we needed to be at, so we are way above. But then again, we've got a sparge anyway. So pre-sparge we're sitting at, and I'll just test it now. Good old ATC unit. It's tasting a lot better now. 1046. So we are getting into the ballpark. We need to 1049. So run it for a little bit longer. We should extract a little bit more, particularly at the higher temperature. So it is going pretty good. Just a basic setup. It is the Ghetto System Volume 2, 2.0. Cheers. Right, so just sparging now, doing it the basic way, sparge of around about 3 litres. I think we're just over 3.05 litres. So that's like overall. Basically, so what I've done is also put the blood orange in a growler, and I've also put, you probably can't pick them up there on camera, the zest has actually gone into there as well, so that it can sort of, yeah, absorb. And using its own acids to draw the zest from its peel. Once it goes in and gets a bit of heat to it, it'll draw even more out of it. So purely done that because I needed the jug to measure out my sparge water, which we've done now. Come in at the required gravity reading, 1059. Smashed our numbers as well. We have predicted between 2 to 3 litres of loss. We're currently sitting at 23 litres at the start of the boil. So with that 2 litres of loss, gives us our 21. With another further litre, if we do have the 3 litres loss, it gives us our 20 litres, which will be around about 19 litres into the fermenter. Once we do the whirlpool and everything, we get everything to settle out. We leave that last little bit in the bottom of the boiler, and that'll give us our 19 litres going into the fermenter, which is the plan. Any more than that at 1059, that's a bit of a bonus, but we are within that. I've never really had any dramas with running this system. It's a little bit more intensive hands-on, but I don't like 100% automated brewing, robot brewing. Just takes the fun out of the brew day. So love the hands-on type stuff. So here we are, fingers crossed we continue to hit these numbers. just hit the boil, getting a bit of a break going on there. I'll get my spray bottle ready. It's not that full, but still. And I'm not going to go with a hop spot, I'm going to go with a sock or paint strainer bag. Been using these for quite a while. That's the first edition. Going in at 60 minutes, we're looking at 15 grams of the Hawadu Blanc. 15 grams of that going in. Get a bit more freedom out of this, out of these hot bags. Paint strainer bags, socks, whatever you want to call them. So that's going in. That way we can just let it do its thing. Alright, so we came down to, ooh, smell that. We came down to about a 1056. That's going to be fine. 1056. Once we do the boil off, we should get back up to the 1059. Bearing in mind, we still haven't added the 300 grams of dextrose or the 800 mils of blood orange juice. So that smells unreal. Colour's looking pretty good so far. Hopefully the amount of juice that's there will be enough to colour this brew. Alrighty, so hop stand, 80 degrees, 20 grams of Willamette at 80 degree hop stand. In that we'll also throw in the zest of the blood orange. Get them in there. Probably going to be a little bit trickier than I thought. There we go. Tie it up. What else did we do? We threw in our coriander seeds too at 10 minutes to go, along with the dextrose and the blood orange juice. This is the final addition going in. So 10 minutes for that. Just going to scoop out this other bag of Hawadu Blanc. Just throw it in there like that. Just let that drain away. So that's the coriander seeds and the first edition being a bittering edition. Draining off. Just use the hop spider for the coriander seeds. Right guys, so pretty much brew day over there. Everything was on point. Couple of corrections. So the finishing, or sorry, the original gravity, starting gravity is going to be at 1059. Exactly what's called for in the recipe. I did state a couple of times throughout the video 1049 was the number, but it is actually 1059. So we hit that. It sort of floated between 1059 and 1060 on the refractor, and we got 18.5 litres into the fermenter. So we're in between where we really wanted to be. So we wanted at the minimum 18, maximum 19, a little bit over 19 would have been fine. We get some into bottles and we can share it. So not going to be a lot there that's going to go into bottles. No biggie. My beer, my drink. I guess someone's going to miss out. It won't be me. So the fermentation steps, we pitched it at around about 25 degrees. Maybe an under pitch. We only used the one packet, rehydrated. If anything, anything over 1050 really calls for, I feel, and the fact sheet says 2 packets for anything over 1050. That is what it is. There's the other packets there. If I need to pitch some more, I'll pitch a little bit more. So we'll do that. So then when we get some sort of action going on in there in the fermenter, we get some movement, we'll bring it down, we'll set it at 20 for 4 days, and then step 2 of the fermentation, we'll bump it up at 25 for 3 days, and then we'll go to 28 for 4 days. Will it work that way? I'm not sure. I'm not 100% confident that will happen like that. The fact sheet's saying that that particular yeast will pump out that brew, finish doing what it's doing within 4 days, but we still needed to clean up after itself. So we'll see with the 4 days and then stepping it up a little bit, whether that'll help with taking some of that, putting a bit more life, I should say, into the yeast, and we'll see whether we can get it to go for a further 7 days. So it's no biggie. 4 days, if it ends, another 7 days sort of help clean up and sort of help things rest out a little bit, and then we'll look at our next step from there. I haven't got any plans with what to do with it after, except for getting it into a keg after this fermentation stages are finished. Colour, not 100% sure. We ended up with probably a little bit more proteins going into the fermenter than what we wanted, so I didn't really get an idea of the true colour, how it's going to end up. If anything, it's got a bit of a tinge to it. I wouldn't expect a hell of a lot to come from that juice, particularly 800 mils going into 18.5 litres. I wouldn't have expected that much at all. Tastes pretty good. The hop schedules seem to work quite well in this beginning product, and obviously, yeah, plenty of orange, blood orange flavour there as well. Into the glass as soon as everything's done, and it's allowed to clear up a bit. We'll get that poured, and we'll get on with our next lot of notes. Right, guys, so here we are. Today's a day. Off tap, off the keg, we have the Saison de Blood, the blood orange Saison. As expected, the colour didn't transfer from the blood oranges to the finished product, but the flavour's definitely there. It's just ever so slightly. It's just enough to sort of make it more interesting than just a basic Saison. So a couple of things changed over the course of the brew. Our efficiency was a lot higher. We were aiming for a 1.049. We come in at 1.059. Our finish gravity come in at 1.003. We were aiming for 1.009. So effectively we end up with a Saison that is 7.35% instead of the originally planned 5.3. Not an issue. I knew I was going to come into that sort of area with this particular beer because of the amount of blood orange juice that was going into it. So it has made it a little bit more acidic as well. Just it's got ever so slightly a little bit of tang about it, but everything's sort of coming through. On the tasting notes, that is coming from the fermenter. So this is the first beer off tap for myself, which is going to be the real feedback for this particular beer. So the Saison de Blood colour. Loving the colour. The colour's definitely something I expected from the style. It's not uncommon to have haziness, particularly in the glass. Some cloudiness when it comes to Saison, the style, being a farmhouse style beer. Originally brewed for the field workers and the mine workers or some sort like that. generally or usually at a lower percentage, so it was around about 3, anywhere from 3 to 3.5, some were quite lower. Something for the guys, the workers, when they came back after their daily work, for them to have a sit down and obviously rehydrate with a low alcohol beer, and that was the Saison. So here we have a much higher alcohol content version of it. Like I said, colour for me I feel is on point. Carbonation, it's still got a lot to go on the carbonation. We're just starting to ramp it up, so we're doing a slow carbonation process so we don't scrub too many of those flavours that we want to get from the fruit that we've added, particularly the juice. Not a lot of the zest went into this one. We did use some zest, used it a little bit differently in this one than we have with one of the other beers, which you'll see the other grain to glass video for the other beer we've put down. So the flavour, actually the aroma I should say, so definitely picking up all those prominent notes that you expect to get from Saison style. Banana, slight spiciness, a little bit of cloves, a little bit of bubble gum that comes through, particularly with the Saison, Bell Saison yeast from Laumol yeast suppliers. That's definitely one of the traits that comes through with majority of the Saison yeast. It's all there in the aroma. Picking up a little bit of the pithiness, it's sort of at the back end of everything else that's there at the front for the style. But yes, it's definitely there. So this one's definitely on the lighter side of where I wanted it to end up, and particularly with the flavour and the colour and so forth of the blood orange. It would take a hell of a lot of blood orange to actually get it to come through in the colour the way you'd want it to, unless you went into using concentrates of some sort. Smells great. It is a warm day here in Newcastle. Just come back from playing a little bit of tennis with the kids up at the local tennis courts. So, and obviously mowed the lawns this morning, which a lot of people are doing in lockdown. Nothing else to do except for either go to work or stay at home and play in the garden. So here goes for taste. So the grain bills comes through really well in this. It's one of the things I like about the particular recipe that I've made. It's very close to one of the last Saisons I made. Tweaked it a little bit more this time around. As mentioned, the ingredients at the start of the video. So we're getting the banana, we're getting the spice, we're getting the bubble gum, getting all those things, like I said, that commonly come across with the Saison style. And that little bit of creaminess, just with that tinge, just that slight tinge of pith, and obviously blood orange coming through. One thing I found with blood oranges versus a standard orange is that you have a different variety of oranges that can be used in or can be found. So you get the more sort of juicier, sweeter, and then you get sort of more tangy, sort of sour notes coming from certain varieties of oranges. So one that's really good for preserving or preservation, fruit preserving. Other one more for juicing, direct drinking, fresh squeeze type of thing. And the blood orange is sort of sitting between that for me. They're definitely very, very nice to eat. They have a beautiful colour about them, that real deep, rich blood colour you see on the social media platforms in the ice cream container. Those colours are really deep, almost like they should be. They look like blood, but they definitely didn't come through. In certain lights, the tinge is sort of there with the beer, but and the flavour's only just there, which is pretty good. So nothing overwhelming, particularly for this. It's a lighter style, but being a little bit more boozy. I still want to get those Saison flavours coming through, rather than just be dominated by either certain types of hops that are used, and particularly the blood orange. So I am 100% first glass off the tap. Really happy with it. Really happy with it. I mean, you got to be happy with your own beers. Very rarely going to be disappointed in the beers that you make yourself. There's nothing more rewarding than pouring that first glass off and being happy with your own product. So it is got some good lacing going on. I quite like that. It does look so delicious and very very inviting. So geez, I hope you liked it. The grain to glass hopefully has picked up all the sort of things that went on within the brew. I'll tell the story of how it is in the glass, yeah, here's to another 4 to come. So there's a few grain of glasses to come. Cheers. Once again, shout out to Hoppy Days Brewing Supplies for supply of these next 6 recipes we're about to venture through. We're on to our second one now.